emphasis for VA tribal area districts and then also the private sector. All of those elements, is that right?
You got that from the New Orleans Fusion Conference or from the DHS website that talks about fusion process overall. The Austin Regional Intelligence Center right now has those 10 entities that are in this area, but the information that's there can be linked into and provided, presuming those people who it is abide by the privacy policy and the concerns. So while they're not, we will work and we constantly work with our other state and federal partners all the time on a variety of different issues. They may not exactly be sitting there, but they will have access to some of the information if they haven't even known.
Yeah. So more specifically, how is the private sector going to play a role in this?
Right now, we have no plans of having private sector involvement other than the vendor that is selected to help build a software system that translates the language from each of the silos that are out there. And as Commander Gabe pointed out, normalize that data. So in terms of the private sector, I don't see any private sector involvement other than to help build the process.
Hello. All right. I have a two-part question now. Going back to something that you had asked earlier, this is that same warning signs of terrorist events, and basically it's an outline of what would constitute a suspicious activity report. And of course, there's some concerning things, you know, fortifying your house, espousing extremist views. But to go to the expunging thing, and here it calls on police officers that collect the suspicious activity report to call the terrorist screening center. And the terrorist screening center will let them know if there's a possible terrorism nexus. And they'll return to two handling codes. The first one would say arrest, and that's because there is a terrorism nexus and this person is a potential terrorist. The second one, handling code 2, it says the person may be identified as being associated with possible criminal or terrorist activities. Then it goes on to say, do not alert this individual to this notice. When we visited the Oklahoma Fusion Center, one of our colleagues asked the Fusion Center director so of course if you've committed a crime or suspected of committing a crime, then due process, you have to let us know about it. We have to know what we're being charged and, you know, of course, carry forward with the trial. But if we haven't committed a crime and we've done something that may be suspicious of terrorist activity, they said at that point, you are not even privileged to know whether or not they have any information collected on you when it is of non-criminal nature. So it's kind of a double standard. If you're a criminal, then you get to know. But if it's something that may or may not be associated with terrorism, you won't get to know. Is that going to be the same thing with the suspicious activity report collecting standards for ARIC?
I think number one is that suspicious activity reporting actually occurs in perhaps all major city police departments across the country. We do it on a daily basis based on the calls that we receive. Sometimes they call terrorist needs, sometimes they'll crime stalker's tip or something like that that basically talks about something that connects something. For us, the way we view it, it still has a criminal nexus. If there's no criminal nexus, there's no action taken. If an officer, you know, I think I described this to some of you the other day, and if an officer, if APD receives a 911 call at 2 o'clock in the morning that there's somebody that's walking around a darkened house in the middle of the neighborhood, the police go, we respond pretty quickly to that because we don't know for sure, but there's a good possibility you're looking at maybe a burglar or a little peeper or something along those lines. We go there. There are times when we show up on that call, and actually it turns out to be the homeowner whose power went out looking for his breaker box. Okay, we have to go and look. I mean, you expect the police to do that. We can't wait for the crime to occur. So what I'm kind of saying is that I can't answer because I don't know exactly what the book says, but I can tell you how we operate in terms of dealing with suspicious activity, such as that. We get there, the officer has to use his training and good sense and experience to basically evaluate if we have a crime or not a crime, could it have been a crime or whatever else, to report that accordingly. So there's a decision-making process. The other thing that's really important to know is that I know that we talked a little bit about the issue of that. You at the Public Safety Commission, you brought up, and it was a good point, you brought up the fact that you were looking at a special order, I believe, out of LAPD that talked about some of activities that you do that would qualify based on going under the senior, places like that. And I think the important thing for us is that I don't know what their general order says, but we're going to craft a policy that expressly talks about that. And the other thing is I think going to be real important, and we'll get back to you on this, is the issue is that whenever we formalize that process, we'll go back before the Public Safety Commission. I'd be happy to call you personally and let you know before that comes into play. But those particular, that group of issues that are reportable and the circumstances around that are still under development. That is not something that ARIC is going to start up with. We're looking at this other separate, the silos of the records management system.
Silos. Yeah, you don't want to see that term. Okay, and the other part is there's an all crimes and now an all hazards approach. And I just got a news article today that the Center for Disease Control for the first time